I am Heidi Benjaminson, your host of Confidence Coaching, a podcast for mothers who want to stay calm, anchored, and like how they show up in the world. Life isn't a spectator sport. Success comes to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and a little sparkle. I'm glad you're here. Hello. Welcome to episode 182. Wanting everyone to be happy. This is a best of. This is actually the last episode for this series, at least, where I'm replaying some of the most popular episodes from the first, 176 episodes. That's a long time, y'all. I love this episode. I love this topic because it can sometimes go against how we naturally want to interact with other people. We've all been taught, we see it in so many ways culturally, that we should want other people to be happy. In fact, I believe biologically there is something default inside us that we want other people to be happy. We want good things to happen to the people around us. And I want that too. I actually, on a higher level, not just on default, I want good things to happen to the people around me. But I have noticed, and I see in myself, and I see in my clients, and I see in the world, and I've learned through all of the science that it is not helpful for us to want everyone to be happy all of the time. In fact, it is a very disconnecting agenda for us to have. And connection is what we want with the world. Connection is what we want with other people. So if there is this desire that we have that is going to disconnect us from other people, we need to really take a look at that and understand, where is that coming from? And what's another way that I could approach this person, approach this situation? And often what it is, everybody just wants to be seen. Everyone wants somebody to sit with us, no matter where we are. We don't want to feel the additional burden of, oh no, I'm going through this hardship and I should feel good about it. All these people want me to be happy and feel good. That doesn't feel good to that person, and it's so disconnecting. So I hope that you will really enjoy the replay of this episode and look forward to new episodes next week. Enjoy! Today, I want to talk about a topic that I've been gathering info on and examples for quite a while. When I ask any parent, and this includes myself, what they ultimately want for their children, they say they want them to be happy. And I still want that for my children. But as I've learned the things that I'm teaching you, I realize the longer answer and my longer real desire is I want my children to be happy, and I also want them to experience the fullness of life, which isn't always happy. And I get it. I prefer to be around happy people. So if my family is happy, it's considerably easier for me to be around them. This is the selfish part of wanting others to be happy, and not bad selfish. We all gravitate toward people who are like us. Our brains want less work to do. This is why our vibe attracts our tribe. So before we go further, I want to pose a question to you. Why do you want people to be happy? Who is the person in your life that you spend time trying to make happy? And why do you want them to be happy? Much of the time, our desire for other people to be happy is a good and useful motivator. I don't want to drop that desire, and for most of it's okay. None of us are going to say that we desire for our family to be miserable. But there are times when this desire for others to be happy ends up creating more negativity in our lives. The desire can end up blocking or clouding how we experience life. I see it, funny enough, create stress and problems for myself and others when other people aren't happy. I'm going to give you lots of examples, but before I do that, I want to recap several principles of our emotions and of life that we often forget when we're focused on making other people happy. First, the only reason that we all know what happiness feels like is because our human experience also includes sadness, disappointment, grief, rejection, if we don't have these opposites and the contrast, we wouldn't even know what happiness and the positive emotions in life feel like. So we have to realize, even though we don't like how it feels, it's necessary for everyone to feel the full range of emotions in life. Nothing has gone wrong in a basic life sense when we're disappointed or when we're hurt. And I don't mean it's right for someone to hurt us. I mean, life is going to include the good and the bad things happening to us. And us also doing good and bad things that will result in a whole assortment of natural consequences. Okay, a second principle to remember when we want others to be happy is that we don't create the emotions that other people are having. We create our own emotions, and we're in charge of managing how we experience everything. Yes, we absolutely can speak and act and do things that absolutely do influence how another person experiences life. It's good for us to realize our tone of voice matters and so much more. But ultimately, other people see us and experience us through their own lens, through their own filter of the world. You can bring chocolate chip cookies to 10 people and 9 will love them and 1 will be really annoyed with you. You and the cookies don't create the happiness or the annoyance in these 10 people. Yes, especially if you're me, we still want to bring cookies to as many people as possible. And we also don't want to assume responsibility for the emotions the other person ultimately has. If someone doesn't like chocolate, well, that tells us something about them, not about us or our cookies. So let me give you some more examples of how this plays out, and I think you'll see where this desire can sometimes trip us up. Let's say that you're hosting a family reunion or a party, and it makes sense. I think we'd all want to create a fun and happy atmosphere. I was just at a week-long girls' camp that our church put on for about 110 teenage girls, and holy cow, it was 5 days of pure fun. But one day, my daughter did fall on the zip line and she cut her leg really bad. I heard that one night, a girl was very homesick and crying. One day, 2 huge wasp nests unleashed on the leader that I was partnered with, and she was stung multiple times. It did rain one day, and we had to change some outdoor fun activities to go inside. So imagine if the women who had designed the week saw the few homesick girls who were crying, and they thought, oh, well, this isn't going well. These 2 or 3 girls are not happy. What if they focused all their attention and started getting stressed, trying to make these girls feel good? They didn't do this, but they could have been overwhelmed and anxious trying to manage the emotions of these girls. Luckily, we were prepared with a nurse and very experienced leaders who know these types of things are going to happen. But if they were measuring their success of the week by getting 100% of the people to be happy, they'd feel like they'd failed, which wouldn't feel good to them. And just by the way, my daughter posted on social media that it was the funnest week of her summer, which again says something about her and her ability to have fun in those circumstances and says less about what was planned, although it was planned by women who are fun experts, in my opinion. Now, when it comes down to it, we're all individually responsible for how we experience anything. So if you're planning a family vacation wanting everyone to be happy as you drive across country or as you do whatever, well, maybe that isn't realistic. So when someone isn't happy, we can't get mad at them for not being happy for a few moments. I like beach vacations. I don't get mad at other people who don't like beach vacations and aren't happy at the beach. I'd be worried and stressed for reasons that don't make sense if I wanted them to be happy there. When we go on vacations or trips or weddings or parties, knowing the whole spectrum of human emotions will be present, we're more anchored in our own emotions, and we're anchored in allowing other people to be responsible for their emotions. Let me give you an example of how I failed at this a few years ago. I planned a trip to New York City right after school got out for Christmas break. I totally failed to take into consideration that my family was exhausted from school and such. I failed to take into account that they're teenagers. I failed to take into account that they might not be able to express all of the appreciation for my efforts and for my amazing planning of this very fun trip. I was totally planning it to try to manage their emotions. I failed to take into account a lot of things. And what happened was I was very disappointed and mad when they weren't super happy to be walking miles and miles and miles in the city. I was mad they were complaining as I zigzagged them to restaurants that I had researched and planned. So notice how I ended up mirroring some of their emotions just because I had made it one of my main goals to create happiness in them versus just being okay that they were going to experience it however they were going to. And the result was I made myself miserable. I disappointed myself with how I spoke to them. I stressed myself out with unrealistic expectations, all because I thought they should be happy and they weren't. And I thought they owed it to me to be happy. Now, this is before I had anchored myself in these tools and stepped off the teenage emotional roller coaster. Today, I would handle this trip a lot better. Well, I wouldn't have planned it when they needed a break. It was a profound and glaring example of the misery I created for myself when I thought other people should be happy. I should have realized the only result I can create is to plan this trip. My result isn't how other people feel. Now, I want to pivot to another example. I think wanting others to be happy is the reason why most of us lie when we're asked, "How are you doing?" And we say, "Fine." Because on default, this is what other people want to hear. What if we all answered honestly? Or imagine if half the time you answered, "I'm stressed today," or "I'm nervous today," or "I'm sad today." The person who asked you would probably then do a few things. Maybe tell you that you shouldn't be stressed or sad. Maybe ask why and try to solve for the stress or sadness. This then becomes emotional gaslighting. This is when we tell people, and sometimes, y'all, we do this to ourselves, that they shouldn't be feeling the way they're feeling. We don't see people for exactly who they are when we only want to see people as fine or happy. So when they aren't, we then invalidate who they are. We invalidate their emotions and their experiences by telling them they shouldn't be feeling this way. And y'all, I get it. I catch myself with my children or my husband when they come home from a very long day or such. If I ask how things are, I have to consciously anchor myself and just ask questions, not try to solve anything or tell them that they shouldn't feel that way. It takes work. And I think it's some of the best work we can do to just see people where they are and let their emotions be okay. When we try to solve for emotions and stop holding space for people to feel how they feel, it creates a wall and shuts down communication and sharing. I saw this with myself a few weeks ago. I was stressed about a passport situation I was in, and I was scrambling to figure out how to expedite my renewal that I sent in months ago. I just needed someone to hear out everything I was doing and all the avenues I was pursuing. I tried to share it, and as soon as I started, the person I was sharing with launched into their experiences and how it would all be okay and not to worry. And yes, I understood on some level it was going to be okay. And I'm happy to report I do have my passport before I needed it. But in that moment, I wanted to get the frustration out and for others to just see it and share it. I didn't really need anyone to solve my emotions. What happened is I stopped talking altogether. Only 30% into my awful and boring story of all the things I was doing, which I admit isn't fun to listen to. But on a deeper level, though, what happened was a missed opportunity for a connection with this person who often seeks out ways to connect with me. So I'm actively noticing when I do the same and how to stop it. Because on default, we think something has gone wrong. But our higher brain wants to connect with people and knows all emotions are okay. What I do now is to say to myself over and over, this person's emotions are valid. This person's emotions are valid. They're supposed to feel this way because this is how they're choosing to experience this. And I remind myself, I don't see things the way they see things. So I ask questions. And this is the thing that people want most. They either want space or they just want someone to see and validate who they are. I ask my kids, tell me about that. Or help me understand what happened and why you feel that way. Or just tell me more. Sometimes I'll say, oh, I'd feel the same way if it was me, if that is true. I know that I always shut down when someone says I shouldn't feel a certain way, even if it's done with good intentions. So I actively work to never say those words to people. Those words are like scissors, cutting connections that we have with others. Questions and quiet listening create connections and allow other people to reveal more of who they are. And by us allowing this in others, we are creating more space in our lives for us to have these emotions and for us to witness the whole spectrum of emotions. We will pivot ourselves out of negative emotions after we allow for these emotions in the first place. About 5 years ago, my best friend of 18 years passed away, and I totally withdrew from people who wanted me to feel better. That was totally invalidating of my grief, of my sadness, of my experience. And I didn't blame or think less of these people at all, but I also didn't feel that I could share with them because they weren't okay with my emotions. I know prior I might have done the same thing. So now I'm much more empathetic to grief and any sadness we experience. Now, y'all, at the end of this, I think the biggest reason to be, yes, considerate and caring, and to also let people feel however they're going to feel is because we end up having more peace and happiness in our life. I ruined several days for myself after my New York City trip because of my experience of wanting other people to be happy. I've also experienced the opposite, where I plan family trips or family reunions with the intention of planning something great, and then I release control over how people feel and experience it. I've also now sat with people who are incredibly sad and experiencing incredible grief, and I don't have to assume responsibility for changing their emotions. They know that they're safe sharing with me because I'm not rushing to make them happy. When I'm anchored, other people feel safe feeling whatever they need to feel. At the beginning of this episode, I asked why you want certain people to be happy. Is it because then you'll be happy more? I hope you'll see our happiness isn't dependent on how other people feel. Of course, the energy of other people, the energy in our house, the energy we all bring can be contagious if we leave our brains on default. I want you using your higher confident brain to separate your happiness from others. Ironically, by doing this, we will become more considerate of others. We are more anchored to care for ourselves and others, not less considerate or less caring. Releasing control of how others feel means we show up with energy that others may mirror back to us if they're able to. Now, if you would like personalized, individual one-on-one coaching to help you anchor your emotions in your specific life situations, sign up for a consult call at HeidiBenjaminson.com. A confident mother is the greatest gift to her family. Not a perfect mother. Our families want us to feel confident, anchored, and calm. I can help you uncover this version of yourself. Have a great week.